What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and we got a loaded show for you guys. Because Vikings fans, I'm always normally a very positive person. I love getting you guys great news, but we do kind of have a double dose of bad news around Brian Flores and JJ McCarthy that we'll talk about in the first half of today's show. Then also this guy, Colin Cowherd. He disrespected the Vikings yet again. So we'll talk about that. But before we do so, if you guys want the Vikings to keep Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator, hit that thumbs up icon. You never know if Flores or any of his family members are coming across this show and they're like, oh, damn, we got 1,000 likes. There's 1,000 Vikings fans out there that wants to keep Flo in Minnesota. Well, if that's you, hit that thumbs up icon. All right, let's dive into the bad news around J.J. McCarthy. So Kevin Seifert tweeted this out early on today saying, news, Vikings QB J.J. McCarthy had a second surgery on his right knee this week to address swelling that developed after an uptick in rehab activity. As part of the procedure, he was given a biological injection. No changes to recovery timeline. And then also, Ben Gessling tweeted out here, I'll just read this out. He said, to be clear, source said it was just an injection for McCarthy, no second surgery. So the torn meniscus surgery JJ got, it's normally a 4 to 6 month recovery timeline. So even if like November 13th, that sets him back, even if he takes the full 6 months, he'll still be 100% June 13th. So obviously disappointing news around JJ, but I don't think this is going to impact, Sam Darnold in free agency. I really don't think this has any say on what the Vikings are going to do. So that's the news on JJ. Let's dive into Brian Flores. So Brian Flores hopped on the Adam Schefter podcast, and he was just talking about his future, chopping it up about the game, and it sounds like he wants to be a head coach again. This is actually what he had to say about becoming a head coach. He said, it would have to be the right opportunity. But yes, I would love to be a head coach again. Minnesota has welcomed me with open arms, me and my family. They've shown us a lot of love, and I'm showing Minnesota a lot of love back. And that's talking about the state and the people here, but obviously this building as well. And I don't want to sell how big of a loss Flores would be, because I don't think the Vikings defense this year is as successful as they have been because of the talent. I think it's probably 60% Flores, 40% on the players, and guys like Cashman, Grenard, Van Ginkel, like those are studs at the respective positions. But I think a lot of the success this season for the Vikes is because of that guy. And a couple of interesting stats here: sacks in the league, Vikings have 30. That's 6th in the NFL. Defensive EPA, Vikings are still 1st in the National Football League. Defensive DVOA, the Vikings are at minus 24.6%. That is 1st, and they are 1st in pressures and 1st in turnovers. Flores actually had a cool quote about the Vikings being at the top of the league in turnovers. He pretty much just said, you kind of perform what you preach in practice. So I thought that was pretty cool there. But he also had this little note here about his kids. He said, now I may get some resistance from my kids, talking about leaving Minnesota, who are having a great time here in Minnesota. They're having a fantastic time here just with school and basketball and football and friendships and things like that. I think I get a little resistance, but for me personally, it's something I'd love to do again. With that said, Minnesota has been a great spot for me, my family, and we're really enjoying it. So who am I calling out here? Hey, Brian Flores' kids. Maybe you guilt trip them a little bit. Like, shed a couple tears. Be like, Dad, I do not want to leave Minnesota. I love it here. I love my friends. So Flores' kids, I'm calling you out right now. Guilt trip your dad to staying in Minneapolis and stay the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. Do you really want to go live in Las Vegas, raise a family there? I'd much rather raise a family in Minneapolis. So, that's kind of a little bit of joking there. But, clearly, family always plays an impact on where, whether it's free agents or coaches go. Kirk Cousins, great example. His wife, their family was from Atlanta. I bet you that was a big reason why Kirk left Minnesota, which he loved, to go to a familiar home in Atlanta. So Flores' kids, guilt trip your dad a little bit, and that'd be great news for Vikings fans. But I thought this was pretty cool. Flores talked about his relationship with Kevin O'Connell, and he says, it's been fantastic. He's all about vibe and energy and having the right energy across the board. I've been a few other places. This is the first time I'm working for an offensive head coach. So to see that dynamic, really just spend time with him on his thought process from an offensive standpoint, that's been new and different for me. And then this is the cool part. Seeing the head coach quarterback dynamic, because he's really the best in the business from a standpoint, and just watching that dynamic. He does such a great job with that group. It's been phenomenal. He and I have a great relationship. I pick his brain and ask him questions. Now, I'll say this, and I'm very confident in this. The Vikings right now, they have a Super Bowl, contending head coaching and just overall coaching staff. Like, they can 100% win a Super Bowl together, because I think Kevin O'Connell, top 5 offensive play caller. Brian Flores, undisputed top 3 defensive play caller in the National Football League. And, I think a cool dynamic between those two is, like, I'm sure week to week, practice in, practice out, like, Flores will hit up O'Connell, be like, hey, what were you seeing here offensively? How would you try to attack, this scheme we're running? And I'm sure O'Connell asked Flores the same things, like, hey, if we come out in bunch, if we come out in 21 personnel, whatever it may be, how is you as a defensive coordinator, how would you, kind of combat that and try to attack it from a schematic standpoint? So these two, I would love to keep them together. And, I got one question for Flo. If Brian Flores is watching this would kind of be my argument. You are still 43 years old. Why not just ride it out here for 5 years and then become a head coach? Like, who says Flores, let's just say Vikings defense of the next 3 seasons is one of the best in the National Football League? Because right now, if you had to rank, like, potential head coaches in the NFL, like, Flores is not necessarily at the top of the list. But if he has a couple of more good years in Minnesota, leads this defense to, again, being ranked out very, very highly, like, I think he would have better head coaching jobs. But I'll ask you guys this. Will Flores get a head coach job this offseason? I'm still going to lean no on this. I think it's going to be a couple more years, but you guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Will Flores get a head coach job this offseason? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. We got to talk about our main man, Colin Cowherd, and what he actually didn't have to say around the Minnesota Vikings. I'll explain that here in a second. But first off, massive shout out to today's presenting sponsor. That's PrizePicks. If you guys download the PrizePicks app today and sign up today, you guys will get $50 instantly if you use promo code CLNS after you play your first $5 lineup. Best part is you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Now, if you guys want to, increase your viewing experience for a basketball or football game this year, PrizePicks is the #1 way to do so. It makes every game entertaining. And plus, you guys can get $50 instantly if you use promo code CLNS after you create your first $5 lineup. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. But massive shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks, run your game. Alrighty, so Colin Cowherd. These were his top 10 teams in the NFL heading into the season. It is just a joke. So he had the Washington Commanders at 10. He had the Arizona Cardinals at 9. He had the San Francisco 49ers at 8, Steelers at 7, Chargers at 6, Eagles at 5. Now, I don't have a problem with the first 4 he has. Like the Chiefs, Bills, Lions, Ravens, I think that's undisputed as the top 4 teams in the National Football League. But to have the Eagles, Chargers, Steelers, Niners, Cardinals, and Commanders, and like my question was, like, what are we doing here with Cowherd? Like, what are we, what's his ranking system is pretty much what I'm curious about, because the Cardinals, they haven't played anybody. The Steelers, Chargers, they don't really have any good wins. The Commanders don't necessarily have any good wins either. And the Eagles, I know they're on a 5-game win streak right now. They're hot. They looked the part. But, again, like, I don't think their resume stacks up with what the Vikings did. And I hate saying this. Oh, this is going to hurt me to say. The Packers should be on here as well. I don't understand that. But we'll dive in team to team here. We're going to start with the Cardinals. I just don't get why Cowherd has the Cardinals ahead of the Minnesota Vikings. Like, looking at their schedule here, like, yeah, they got blown out by the Packers. They got a good win against the Chargers. Sure. They also went on the road, beat San Francisco, some of their better wins. They blew out the Rams in week 2. Went toe-to-toe with the Bills in week 1, but still overall, I don't think the Cardinals have done enough to be like, oh, they're a better football team with the Vikings. I'll tell you what, as a Vikings fan, early look at the NFC playoff picture, the Vikings, right now, they will be playing the Arizona Cardinals. I would love that matchup. But the Commanders, I understand they're the fun, sexy team, like Jaden Daniels. Like, they're definitely a fun team to watch, but I don't think they're better than the Vikings. Like, what is their best win this year? Looking at their schedule right now. Yeah, they went toe-to-toe with the Steelers, but I think they're a little overhyped as well. Best win probably on the road in Cincinnati. But, again, at that time, like, still, the Bengals are 4-6. Like, their defense is a joke. And, I just don't get, like, how do you look at the Vikings wins over the Niners, Texans, who are Green Bay on the road? Like, how do you not look at those wins? And then you look at Washington's schedule and everything they've done this year, and you're like, oh, yeah, the Vikings are a worse team than the Commanders. And then how about the team the Vikings beat? I understand that when you're ranking NFL teams, it is a rich tapestry. You don't want to just specifically take, only this season's sample size, but the Niners are not that good of a football team this year. Yes, they're still probably a top 15 team in the league. Got to give credit to their head coach and just their whole organization. But, they lost Brandon Ayuk for the year. Obviously they got McCaffrey back, but their special teams, they're a complete joke. They missed 3 kicks and muffed the punt this last week. Like, there's a lot of left to be desired with the Niners this season is what I'm trying to say. And the fact that the Vikings, are, again, they smoked the Niners when they played them, are not ranked, and the Niners are, I think it's a little bit of a joke. And then this team, I don't get it at all. I understand Mike Tomlin, hell of a head coach. And the Steelers, they have been playing much better football as of late. But, we always talk about, ugly wins for the Vikings. Like, everybody loves to kill the Vikes of the last 2 weeks for barely beating the Colts, barely beating the Jags. Well, the Steelers, they barely beat the Giants at home in a primetime spot. This team lost to the Colts. They lost to the Cowboys. They barely beat the Broncos, and they kind of got lucky with Kirk Cousins in week 1 coming off his torn Achilles. They don't have a good win on their entire schedule. I just don't get it. And then the team that really doesn't have a good win, the Chargers. The Chargers' best win this season. You guys ready for this? I'm going to call them out right here. So they're on a 3-game win streak. They beat the Titans and the Saints at home. Both those teams are terrible. They went to Cleveland, beat the Browns. They're a terrible team. They lost to the Cardinals. They beat the Broncos. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Raiders. They beat the No, that's it. Not even the Cowboys. That was in the preseason. I don't get the hype around them whatsoever. And then, the Eagles, I understand they got a sexy roster. Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They got some of the best weapons in the league. But, again, what's the Eagles' best win? Probably in Cincy against the Bengals. Again, I'm not the biggest, believer in the Bengals whatsoever. And, this is a team, you beat the Packers in Brazil. That's a good win. They're on a 5-game winning streak. You can make an argument for the Eagles being ranked higher than the Vikings, but I think at minimum, the Vikings should be 6 on power rankings. And, I'll explain why here in a second, but I think the Vikings, and this is a take I've been sitting on, I think they got an outside chance for the number 1 seed. I think the Vikings are going to rip off all 5 of these games. I think they're going to beat the Titans. They're going to beat the Bears. They'll beat the Cardinals and Falcons at home, and then obviously they'll beat the Bears at home. The Vikings, they have a chance right now to be a legit 12-2 football team. And even at 12-2, I bet you they'll still be outside the top 10. And this is the Sam Darnold blinders is what I'm calling it. People just look at the Vikings because everybody thinks, and, I'm a big component of this, quarterback moves the needle more than any other position in all of sports. But, football is a team sport. There is more to it than just the quarterback position. And, yes, I think, head-to-head, Darnold versus another quarterback, let's just say, who do you have on that list? Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold, but I think with what, the Vikings have around him, if it's just a head-to-head matchup, I think Darnold could outplay him. And I think there's just people just not believing in Darnold, and, I totally understand that, but I'll ask you guys this. How does it shake out for the rest of the year? Predict the Vikings record for me for the rest of the season. I got them going 13-4. I'll give the Vikings 2 more losses for the rest of the season, but I think you're going to rip off a lot of wins here. So you guys let me know. Predict the record for the rest of the year. Also, I'm on Twitter. That's the handle right there, @PatSieps. Give me a follow over there, and I'll give you guys a follow right back. See you guys next time. SKOL Vikes, baby.